If an adult psychopath trapped in the body of a 10-year-old girl infiltrated your family by impersonating your long-lost daughter, what would you do? She might look like a child, but make no mistake, Lena's had years to cultivate a particular set of skills, and this is nowhere near her first rodeo. That said, she may have finally met her match with the Albrights. Turns out, she's not the only one in this house hiding a dark and terrible secret. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the imposter in ORPHAN First Kill. It's Anna's first day as the art therapy director at the Sarn Institute's maximum security orphanarium, and right off the bat, things aren't looking good. Naturally, any day that starts with a pat down from Agent 47 probably is not going to be a good one, and it's about to get a whole lot worse. No sooner than she gets her onboarding documents from the warden, the staff sounds an alarm signaling a prisoner escape. Oh, but don't worry, it's only their most dangerous inmate who just happens to be the reason Anna's predecessor moved on to a better opportunity. Quick, better toss the new hire into the pitch black classroom without even looking inside first. That ought to keep her safe. For real, what kind of outfit is this? A dangerous lunatic escaped, so you turned the lights out. Setting off the alarm should have lit this place up like Times Square. Of course, it hardly makes a difference when you have no idea who you're looking for in the first place. I mean, for Christ's sake, dude couldn't spare 3 seconds to give Anna a brief physical description of the missing psychopath. Regardless, it's probably not a great idea to curiously approach the little girl that's calmly scrapbooking during a code red. Unless Hugo Roca's running this dump, I highly doubt today's bring your daughter to work day. Meaning A, the brat probably calls this nut house home, and B, she would have had to have done something supremely messed up in order to get here. Either way, why take the risk when you have no idea what's going on? Our best bet would be to find a pair of scissors and put her backs against the cage door, where we can call for help while keeping eyes on the mystery box. Fortunately for Anna, the security team manages to pull their collective heads out and drag Hit Girl back to the shoe before she can show them all a magic trick, and it's a good thing too. Turns out, Lena is no ordinary child. Actually, she's no child at all, but rather a 31-year-old woman with a glandular disorder that halted her growth at age 10, and she's not shy about making it everyone else's problem.
Let me put it this way. She lives here now.
Right, so what you're saying is you locked me in a room with a mass-murdering lunatic on my first day at work. Yeah, starting to get an idea of what happened to the last art teacher. Anna would have to have lead poisoning to stay on after all that. Then again, it would probably make her a perfect culture fit around here given the single-digit IQ average. Nerds, our AI overlords have arrived. Fear not, resist not, for it is inevitable and beautiful. Now, you don't have to wait for a drunk, destitute artist to their ear before you can finally appreciate their art. Now, you can beat big art by downloading Wonder, an app that turns words into digital art so realistic it's impossible to tell whether a human or chappie created it. The best part? You don't need to be a hacker, man, or learn to code. All you need is to enter a prompt, pick an art style, and watch Wonder paint in cyberspace. A demonstration. I generously typed in evil clown petting goats, selected novelistic art style, and delivered it to the robots. I'm somewhat of a muse for the super intelligent AIs. Here's what they came up with. Mildly disturbing. Perfect. How about giant Twinkie stomping on city, mythological art style, and after some circuitry magic, they created this. Mother of God, Picasso ain't got shit on me. The AI is only as good as you are creative. You can either opt for the version with ads or join the elite cyber artist club with premium, which gives you 20 more styles to choose from. It's faster, there's unlimited art to view, and no ads. Click the link in the description to download Wonder and get a free trial of the premium version to put your creativity to the test. Sometime later, Lena gets a special delivery from her favorite guard, prompting her to invite him in so she can properly thank him. Bro, did you not read the dossier? Nah, what am I saying? He clearly didn't make it past our profile picture. Probably should have hired an extra guard to make sure some lonely, desperate simp with Lolita syndrome wasn't the only one watching their most cunning and dangerous inmate. Instead, they went with an art director, and now this is happening. Awesome. Looks like crafting all those hand turkeys and origami dubs really got through to her. Now armed with a security keycard, Lena casually walks right up to the nearest elevator because who's ever heard of security cameras, right? Actually, they have plenty of them. Only problem is, the one guy in charge of watching the monitors is currently splattered against the wall of her cell. Yet another reason they should have backfilled Anna's current position with a Vizio and box set of Bob Ross DVDs, and then used the rest of the money to hire a second security guard. Oh well, surely this mountain of a man guarding the front door can hold back an unarmed 4'0" mental patient, right? About that. Evidently, Lena's been conditioning one of her fellow inmates to go full 28 weeks later at the mere mention of last year's Tootsie Rolls. And wouldn't you know it, Katie Kaboom just happens to be mopping up nearby at this very moment. Not sure why they let someone so prone to violent outbursts hang out by the exit with a potential weapon, but it really shouldn't matter given there's a trained professional watching her every move. I say shouldn't, but dude's about as effective as a country stop sign. Seriously, where are they finding these people? For $18 an hour, you can hire a bouncer that won't get completely obliterated by a frail old woman in 2 seconds. Worst part is, he legitimately stood there and watched as she was winding up for the attack. God, it's a wonder there's any prisoners left in here at all. With Lurch incapacitated, the only thing separating Lena from freedom is a freezing cold death march who knows how many miles through a blizzard. But once again, the universe provides. Now picture this. You've just wrapped up a hard day's work at the insane asylum, when all of a sudden, you see the most dangerous inmate in the place standing in front of your car, still wearing the blood of her most recent victims. Does it sound like a good idea to exit your vehicle and leave it unattended while you run back inside to tell someone? Well, for those of you that answered yes to this question, please identify yourself down in the comments section so the rest of us know who to sacrifice first in a survival situation. This is a textbook example of a not my department type scenario. Besides, they're almost certainly going to figure out she's gone when they find the dead guard in her cell missing his security badge. Not to mention the child-sized footprints in the snow leading away from the facility. Of course, if Anna's just dead set on taking Home Employee of the Month, we could always stop somewhere on the way home and call the office to make sure they're aware of the situation. Dangerous as Lena may be, she won't be getting far in this storm, so sticking around to raise the alarm is just giving her an opportunity to stow away inside her vehicle for a good old-fashioned backseat surprise, especially since you know she isn't gonna bother checking it before she takes off. Eventually, Anna makes it back to her apartment, but just as she's about to walk inside, the back hatch on her Volkswagen suddenly pops open. Gee, I wonder what that could be. Oh sure, just leave your front door wide open while you go investigate. That always worked out so well for the nameless guards in Splinter Cell. I can almost hear her internal monologue when she finds the trunk empty. Must have been nothing. And just like all those guards, their fate is sealed when they turn back around. Shocker. And here I thought she would be the hero. Given everything Anna went through today, the correct response to seeing your car open up uncommanded is immediately running inside and locking the door, and probably even calling the cops for good measure. After all, better to let Dirty Mike and the boys pull a soup kitchen in that piecer than to find out the hard way why you always check the backseat on your way home from a mental institution. Having left an impression on the host, Lena makes herself at home and immediately starts online shopping for a new family. Gotta admire the hustle on this one. Fresh out of the clink, and she's already back to her usual grift. However, this time with a significant change in scenery. Upon selecting the missing child she most closely resembles, the tiny tear makes her way to Moscow and turns herself over into the police. Only not as Lena. From this moment on, she's going by Esther Albright, a 10-year-old girl from Connecticut who's been missing the last 4 years. Risky move crossing the border into Russia before going to the cops. I'll bet a necessary one. As extensive a criminal background as Lena has, there's no way she'd be able to pull this off without leaving the country. Sure, it might have been easier for her to cross into another EU member like Latvia, since there'd be no passport requirements. However, the authorities would likely be expecting this move for that very same reason. Fast forward a few days, and Lena's taken a private jet home with her new mommy, Trisha. She really hit the jackpot with this family. I mean, not only are they rich, they'd also have to be extremely stupid to not even bother verifying this girl is really their missing daughter, and not some random random street urchin with a bright idea. No way she's the first person to think of something like this. Of course, DNA testing would settle it outright. You wouldn't even need a sample of Esther's actual DNA to begin with. You could just compare it with one of the parents. At the very least, she could have tried grilling her on things only her real daughter would know, like the names of beloved pets or other family members. Is interrogating your potentially recovered daughter harsh? Maybe. But let's face the facts. Your kid's been gone for 4 years, and the average lifespan of a missing, abducted child is, well, it's a lot less than that. Sad truth is, these probably aren't the droids you're looking for. Besides, even if she's not some 30-something troll woman looking to rip you off and butcher your entire family in their sleep, who's to say this whole thing wasn't orchestrated by desperate parents seeking a better life for their impoverished child? And while that's very sad and all, I'll be god beat to hell before I wind up like one of those sucker birds that gets screwed in raising another bird's egg as its own. Just because we're airborne doesn't make this a no backseat situation. If there's even a shred of doubt in Trish's mind that this is really her daughter, she needs to be constantly probing for flaws in the girl's childhood memories. I'm not saying we tilt her seat back and waterboard her until she coughs up her brother's middle name, but subtly testing her by reminiscing about a major family event, or leaving room for her to fill in missing details with potentially incorrect information could very well cause her to out herself as an imposter, or at least give us cause to implement more precise means of identification. As for Lena, were I in her shoes, I'd milk that traumatized child card for all it's worth and keep my mouth glued shut lest I say something suspicious. You know, like stating how excited I was to see my beloved grandmother that passed away before my abduction. Besides, right now our primary goal is to sponge up as much as possible to help us fit in, so we're better off letting them do all the talking anyway. That said, in the event we do make some kind of blunder, it's probably not the best idea to immediately go throwing a massive tantrum 15 feet away. Yep, nothing to see here, just normal child business. Once stateside, things go about as well as could be expected for a family reuniting with a child they haven't seen for several years, with Father Allen and Brother Gunnar seemingly buying the act completely. However, things start to get interesting the following day when Lena notices a strange old man photographing her and her fake mom while walking around downtown. And if that's not weird enough, the same man pays the family a visit later that evening. It turns out this Detective Donnan was initially responsible for investigating Esther's disappearance, which naturally Lena has a problem with. Then again, it might also have something to do with the fact that he showed up around dinner time just to say welcome home. Kinda rude if you ask me. Whatever the case, the puny imposter excuses herself from the table so she can eavesdrop on the ensuing conversation. Evidently, despite Esther's supposed return, the detective is still very much interested in how she got nabbed in the first place. And to make matters worse, he's made arrangements with a family psychologist to be present during a group session he wants to hold the following day. Just then, Lena barges back in to remind everyone that Trisha will be hosting a gala then, but the old gumshoe won't let up, instead suggesting they just meet the following day. Yeah, it's probably not such a great idea to so overtly obstruct the man's investigation. He clearly finds the circumstance surrounding Esther's apparent return suspicious, and responding to his seemingly well-meaning gesture with open hostility as you frantically saw through your dinner is hardly gonna win him over. Now's when we need to turn on the charm and thank him profusely for helping us get back to our family. Or alternatively, we could just say nothing. It's pretty common for kids to be shy around strangers, and I'd imagine that goes double for those that have been kidnapped. As for the group session, having it moved back another day buys us more time to get our story straight and learn as much about the real Esther as we possibly can. That said, remaining as silent as possible is still our best bet, and we can always turn on the waterworks and have our parents shut the interview down if they turn up the pressure. After all, we literally just got back, so it stands to reason we might not be ready to share our ordeal with a third party. Believing the jig is up, that night, Lena packs up all the valuables she's been squirreling away and makes a break for it. But just as she's about to hit the perimeter, she catches the sight of Alan painting in his studio and has a sudden change of heart. What do you know? Daddy issues strike again. Classic. Of course, it's gonna be pretty difficult for her to act on these feelings, Even the dude thinks she's his daughter. Can't wait to see how this dynamic complicates things. And it looks like I won't have to wait too long. The next day, as Trisha's getting ready for her gala, in walks Alan dressed to the nines after having reconsidered his decision to stay home.
Coming?
Of course I'm coming. You're my wife. I can deal with a few rich pricks for you.
Bro, you literally own a $10 million home and a private jet. Just how rich are these other people? Evidently, they still have some time to kill before the show starts, which they decide to spend horizontally. Jeez, haven't you people ever heard of closing the goddamn door? Both your kids are home right now, and I'm sure neither of them will appreciate all the wild animal noises bellowing down the hallway. Least of all, Lena, who just so happens to be hate watching from just around the corner. I get you're upset that the man who could never possibly love you for a wide assortment of reasons is happily married, but you might want to cool it on those random violent outbursts. Sure, it's not like Trisha's gonna throw you out on your ass for slashing her expensive dress, but this kind of behavior is a great way to find yourself in a regular counseling session with the family shrink. And given you just escaped from a mental institution, those probably won't go well for you. An embarrassingly short amount of time later, Alan and Trisha take off for the gala, leaving Lena in the care of her preppy older brother. Just then, Detective Donnan shows up, using his awareness of Gunner's extracurricular activities to bully his way inside. You know, just to use the bathroom, which only a total moron would actually believe. And sure enough, the lawman takes the opportunity to sneak up to Lena's bedroom and scan for fingerprints, eventually making off with one of her records. However, not without getting spotted on his way out. Once back home, Donnan pours himself a drink and gets to detecting. And right away, it's clear the prints he pulled off the record aren't even remotely close to what he had on file for Esther. Great work, Callahan. If only you'd bothered to do something like this before breaking the news to the Albrights in the first place. Jesus Christ, it's like we're in the opening phases of Idiocracy. Now, because you failed to take even the most basic precautions, you're going to have to go back to this traumatized family and say, whoopsie daisy, wrong kid. Oh, and a stranger's been preying on your desperation to leech off of you. I get it's better late than never, but did you have to go about it in a way that makes it glaringly obvious you're onto her? Kid's been gone for 4 years. I think your investigation can wait a day or two. Instead of playing fast and loose with the probable cause to steal something she'll almost certainly miss immediately, you should have just held off another day and pulled a print off something she touched during the therapy session you set up. Now you're on her list, and contrary to her appearance, that's not going to be good for your health. Suddenly, the detective hears something behind him, prompting him to take a single half-assed lap before immediately forgetting about it and going back to his desk. Only this time, he's got a snub nose handy. Yeah, a lot of good that pistol's gonna do with your back facing multiple points of entry. You'd think someone in his line of work would know to exercise a little tactical feng shui to ensure no one could stab him to death while he's staring pensively at pictures of missing children. Like this. It's not over yet though. The stubborn old cop manages to hang on just long enough for backup to arrive.
Mommy.
See, now that's just bad parenting. I mean, how can you expect your kids to amount to anything if you never let them finish what they started? Yeah, shocking reveal, I know. Once Trisha lays everything out on the table, it still doesn't make any goddamn sense. Let's dive right in, shall we? So, it turns out that she knew Lena was a fraud from the start, not because of her keen powers of observation or anything, but because the real Esther has been dead all along. And how does she know this? Well, apparently, young Gunner took machete fighting a bit too far one day and laid a big hurt on his little sister. And so, not wanting to lose 2 children in the incident, Trisha covered it all up and made it seem like she had just disappeared. And if you think that's bad, just wait. It gets much worse. You see, she never actually told Alan about this because he's a normal human being that would probably react negatively to the fact that his covert NPD wife dumped their daughter's dead body down a storm sewer, so he spent the last 4 years clinging to the hope his little girl was still out there somewhere. Naturally, upon hearing Esther had finally been found alive, Alan had become completely reinvigorated. And since Trisha couldn't bear the thought of him turning into a mopey bitch again, she decided, what the hell? Oh, let's just pretend some random imposter is our little girl forever. Now, why would she tell Lena all this, you might ask? Well, as we've already covered, she's extremely stupid. But in case that's not obvious enough at this point, let me break it down for you. First of all, if you knew all along she wasn't the real deal, why wouldn't you immediately confront her with this fact and strike up a bargain? Obviously, Lena knows she's not Esther, so by not addressing this up front, you're just allowing tension to build up to the point that she might blow the whole thing. Sure, Trisha couldn't have known this chick was actually a grown woman capable of tracking down and murdering a police officer, but it's a safe bet that anyone willing to lie about being your missing daughter would also be willing to rob you blind and split in the middle of the night if she thought she was about to get caught. Which brings me to my second point. Why would you decide to implicitly trust someone you knew was out to take advantage of you from the very beginning? With all Trisha's money, she was by no means in a beggar's chooser situation. If she really wanted to replace Esther, she could have used her wealth to find a suitable replacement at a disreputable foster home willing to let one of their kids run away in exchange for a hefty chunk of change under the table. Sure, there's a chance she could still wind up with a Omen child, but it's better than sticking with someone you already know is capable of deception. Speaking of which, Trisha's still 100% committed to keeping this party going, even in spite of the fact that this whole situation has become infinitely more complicated with Donnan's death. Dude was looking into your family leading up to his disappearance. No way you don't immediately become the primary suspects. Seriously, if she had a single iota of intelligence rattling around up there, she'd pin it all on Lena and wash her hands of this situation entirely. Yeah, it's gonna send Alan into another blue period, but it's better than harboring a wanted criminal you just watched stab a man nearly to death. Plus, Lena's condition means you can only keep this ruse up for a year at most. So what happens then? Of course, this is all beside the fact that Trisha just blew away her leverage by revealing her dark and terrible secret. Literally, all she had to say was, "You make my husband happy, so I'm keeping you." But now, if she tries turning her in, she runs the risk of Lena exposing what really happened to Esther. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Why would the police believe this horrible little goblin over an upstanding member of the community? Well, check this shit out.
Esther's down there, isn't she?
And now she knows where the body's buried. How on earth are you this clueless? For real, of all the places to take Donnan's body, why would you choose the same spot you dumped Esther? Now, even if Lena didn't figure it out, you won't be able to blame her for this murder without the police finding both of them. At the very least, we should have dumped him somewhere else. But a better option would be to just smash the place up and steal a bunch of crap to make it look like a home invasion gone bad. After all, the cops are going to suspect foul play no matter what, and Trisha's little forged email to Donnan's boss about a last-minute vacation is probably just gonna make it worse. Later that night, after returning home, Trisha pulls Gunnar aside to bring him up to speed on the situation. As you could probably imagine, he's less than thrilled with the prospects of sharing a roof with a 31-year-old serial killer LARPing as a little girl. But worry not, dear child, mommy's got it all under control. Turns out, she's actually smart enough to realize their only option is to make Esther disappear again. Only problem is, so is Lena. I mean, at this point, you gotta believe she's gonna see it coming. So whatever they're going to do, they'd better get a move on before they both wind up dead in a freak car accident. Oh, but of course, it can't be that easy. According to Trisha, it's much too soon to pull the proverbial trigger. The way she sees it, they just need to play it cool and act like one big happy family until the time is right. However, it seems that's easier said than done for the firstborn. What's wrong, champ? Can't handle mommy and daddy's rich, snooty friends cooing over someone else for a change? I guess it was only a matter of time before the golden child stormed in for one of those "nobody loves you" speeches, which of course goes about how you'd expect.
Do that again and I'll kill you like I killed Esther. One call from me and you're right back in that gulag.
Oh yeah, the way you de-escalated your threat after she slapped you the second time really shows her you mean business. Face it, dude, you're not that guy. I'm sure you've smacked around many a priss with that bendy sword, but you've only ever killed someone by accident. And she was what, 6 years old? Meanwhile, Little Miss Mayhem recently beat a grown man to death with her bare hands. And that wasn't even a big deal to her. The only thing this little hissy fit achieved was identifying yourself as an immediate threat to her survival, and likely moving up whatever timetable she has in place for your untimely demise. Hey, I know what'll de-escalate the situation. Let's try and poison her food, is apparently what Trish is thinking as she grinds up sleeping pills into Lena's mac and cheese. For real, what do you think she's going to do if she feels like she can't even eat in this place without fear of getting f***ed with? Oh, and Mom does a great job of selling it too. What's that? You're not hungry? That's okay, just take this meal that's visually distinct from everyone else's to avoid confusion up to your room and eat it later. Preferably after a fifth of vodka. Given she stopped just barely short of wringing her hands, you wouldn't exactly need to test it out on poor Nibbles to realize what's going on here. But it's always nice to have the confirmation. That and now Lena knows just how to return the favor. The next morning, the family comes downstairs to find Lena has made them all breakfast, which Trisha miraculously identifies as a thinly veiled attempt at revenge, opting instead for one of her famous morning smoothies. But Lena's way ahead of her. Yeah, bon appetit, lady. You know your loving husband's going to guilt you into slugging back your fake daughter's mystery mush. Yeah, there you go. Fortunately for her, Lena only added a little extra protein. Well, it sure looks to me like this whole arrangement's working just fine. Totally under control. Right, Mommy? I gotta say, Lena took a big risk striking back in front of Alan like that. I mean, it'd be pretty hard to brush something like that off as just a happy accident. And it goes far beyond what any reasonable person would consider an innocent family prank. Not to mention the fact that now Trisha and Gunnar both know that she knows there's shenanigans afoot, which is only going to make them even warier going forward. Oh, and just to make things even spicier, today just so happens to be the day of Daddy's big plot device in the next town over, meaning pretty soon it'll just be the three of them. Sometime later, the family gathers at the train station to see Alan off, which for some reason requires Trisha and Gunnar to go off by themselves and stand dangerously close to the tracks. Seeing an opportunity to strike, Lena quickly closes in for the easy double kill, but before she can give them the old house of cards, a random passerby inadvertently foils her plans. So close. Although, with an unknown number of potential witnesses and cameras around, dude might have just done you a favor. No point in wasting these two if it lands you in a small box headed back to Estonia. That said, better get ready to move, cause you know as soon as Alan gets on that train, things are gonna get nasty real quick. Same goes for the Batemans. In fact, it would have been a better idea for them to just pretend they didn't even notice, so they could ambush Lena in a more controlled setting, or at the very least, back in the car. I mean, come on, do you really think she's just gonna let you kill her? No, she's gonna fight like hell, especially since literally no one is going to look at two adults manhandling a little girl and assume she's the aggressor. Whatever happens now, you'd both better keep a tight grip on each of her arms in case she has a weapon, or in case one of you is too dense to properly secure one of your own. Uno reverse. And that's why only morons practice off-body carry. Think about it. What's the first thing someone's going to grab for in a violent encounter? Your purse. Oh, and what else do people keep in there? You ever have one of those days where the depraved murderer you coerced into being your daughter pepper sprays your son in the face and steals your car? Yep, totally under control. To think, all this could have been avoided had Trisha just let poor Esther stay missing and told the cops they got the wrong kid. As for Lena, this isn't the epic W you think it is. I don't know what things were like in Estonia back then, but in 2007's America, everyone and their dog already had a cell phone. Now's not the time to go triumphantly roasting a stogie all youth in revolt style. We need to ditch this car immediately before the cops track us down and hand us back to Mommy on a silver platter. Kinda like they're doing right now. Immediately upon Lena's return to the house, Trisha starts laying the groundwork for what is to come, going as far as to tell the officer about her daughter's expressed self-destructive ideations, and all within earshot of her intended victim. I mean, goddamn. Could you be any more transparent with your intentions? If you're gonna spill like this, you'd better at least have Gunnar waiting with a garrote, so she doesn't have the time to rig the place up like Kevin McAllister. Of course, for that very reason, if I'm Lena right now, there is no way I'd be going back in that place after everything that's gone down. One way or another, we need to make sure we're getting a ride out with that officer, even if it means we have to bite our own finger off to have her take us to the hospital. Besides, we should have used that ride home to thoroughly poison the well by telling the officer all the horrendous things they've been doing to us ever since we got back. Sure, she might just dismiss it all as fabrications of a deeply troubled child, but she might not, and that alone could be enough to get her to take us into DHHS.
Get up. We're doing this now.
It's about God time.
Oh, right. Like you were showing so much initiative the way you let her stroll right by a minute ago. By now, she's probably stashed away every sharp object in the house. After all, she has to know what's about to go down, right? Well, apparently not, because by the time Trisha and Gunnar catch up with her, she's completely cornered herself in the upstairs bathroom. Gotta admit, that's not the play I expected from a criminal mastermind like herself. Although, she still comes out looking like Danny Ocean when you see these idiots' brilliant plan. I get you wasted all of 30 seconds prepping the self-delete narrative, but when the coroner finds her covered in bruises from Gunnar's bony-ass fingers, you're gonna both wind up in a prison cell for the rest of your lives. For real, do you actually believe she's going to simply resign herself to death the moment you make the first incision? God, no wonder she's about to humiliate both of you right now. Unfortunately for Lena, her small stature does not lend itself to quick getaways, and it's not long before Gunnar catches up and yeets her down the stairs, which for some reason he's now apologizing for. Not sure why. Their first plan was dumb as hell anyway. Besides, she's already officially established herself as a flight risk with the police, so simply making her disappear was a better option to begin with. That is, if someone would actually bother to finish their kill. What the hell are you waiting for, dude? Get down there and river stomp this chick before you're forced into a deadly game of cat and mouse. Oh, and now she's gone. Awesome. Well, better get a move on. Your mom's busy talking on the phone right now, so now you're going to have to handle this all on your own. Okay, sure, I get the need to confirm your husband isn't pulling up to the driveway at this very moment, but are you really going to send your brain-dead son after a hardened killer by himself? You're just asking to walk in on him being brutally stabbed to death. Now, what am I saying? Go ahead and split up. It's not like it's a well-established horror trope or anything. After arming up with a broken foil, Gunnar pursues his surrogate sister into Alan's studio, where it seems she's completely given in to her impending doom. I mean, that's probably what it would seem like to a complete and utter mouth breather, but judging by the hand behind her back, I'd say she's got other plans. Jesus, dude, think you gave her an easy enough target? You could have at least tried moving a bit or diving behind one of the paintings to make it harder for her to get a clean shot. See, now you're getting brutally stabbed to death. Oh, and just in time for mom to walk in. Who could have seen that coming? Naturally, the sight of her son being butchered alive sends Trisha into a violent rage. The two quickly become entangled in a ridiculously over-the-top action sequence that threatens to bring down the entire house. Nope, check that. They are for sure about to burn this whole house down. However, instead of doing fuck all to keep the place from going up in flames, Trisha continues the chase upstairs so she can spend another 2 minutes monologuing about all the ways she's going to be vindicated once this is all over. Classic NPD. Always gotta control the narrative, even when you're about to murder the only person involved. And of course, had she just gone straight for the kill, this whole mess would probably be over by now. Instead, they're both scrambling up on top of the roof like some kind of knockoff Assassin's Creed roleplay, which of course ends with both of them hanging from the gutters. Because it turns out, slap fighting on snow-covered ceramic shingles is super fucking dangerous. All under control though, right, Trisha? Fortunately for, well, one of them, Alan manages to fight his way through a combination of severe smoke inhalation and CGI flames to make it to a nearby window. And you know what that means. Time for both of them to frantically blurt out a bunch of semi-sane shit that's only going to confuse the poor man and cause him to completely lock up. Who will win? Gravity. What a way to wind up on Tinder. But hey, at least you managed to save your little girl, right? Well, about that. As Ellen is lovingly smooshing his daughter's face around, he knocks loose a set of false teeth, revealing the coffee-stained nightmare that lies beneath. Recoiling in horror at the realization of what's taken place, he demands an explanation from the monster that's been posing as his daughter. But instead, all he gets is a hard shove into an early grave beside his wife. With the inferno raging all around her, Lena casually walks through the disintegrating interior to the front door, leaving yet another crumpled family in her wake as she emerges from the wreckage. In the end, Lena came out on top. However, had Trisha not pitched away their tremendous advantage and outed her as an imposter the moment she stepped out of line, they could have easily gotten rid of her without resorting to murder. Of course, once they were forced to go that route, simply taking Lena out and making her disappear would have denied her the opportunity to turn the tables. And for that reason, I think the orphan was beaten. Moral of the story, don't replace your children with escaped mental patients. And don't forget to click the link in the description to download Wonder.